their attempt is valorous, right? To try to talk about AI and risk management and stakeholder engagement and all these different aspects. But what they've effectively done, in our humble opinion, is try to rewrite the so-called PMBOK guide, the project management body of knowledge, with reference to AI. By doing that, the AI aspect of it, the standard, how to use it, like you said with Rix and what they're doing, is lost. It's lost in this universe of 300 and something pages of text. But we didn't take the easy way out and just say, hey guys, it's too long, make it shorter. We actually went through all 362 pages and 9,000 something lines. What they've done right is they've addressed it. They've covered it very, very well. It's almost like they just went, they went too far. If you were painting your house, right? You wanted your house, the interior of your house painted, and you say, I really like this color. And they put 27 coats of paint on every, and it took 5 years instead of 3 weeks. Yeah, you'd be happy because the paint is so nice, but you couldn't live in the house for 5 years. A strange analogy, but that's what I feel. I just think it should have been a practice guide rather than a standard. And it should have been much more concise, maybe 12 to 100 pages at the absolute most. And it should rely on, they have all this other thought leadership about projects, the PMBOK guide and other standards and other practice guides. So why not just have this be about AI, since it's the title? So you can sense some frustration here, but it's all in the right vein, I think, and PMI is well intentioned here for sure. It's good coverage, right? It's a good document. It's just way too much. We were creating paper quizzes to pass out by row, so there wasn't copying between, from one to the next. And so as almost a whim, I plugged one of my quizzes in. I gave it my lecture notes in a firewalled situation. And I said, can you create a similar quiz with the same mix of fill in the blanks, multiple choice, and short essay questions? And, the output was astoundingly good. I think partially because I did not let it search the web. That's one of the things people should take in, right? Is limit what your agent or chat is doing in terms of where it's looking. And also, of course, from what perspective it should be writing. So, as a professor, came out was not perfect, but it was mind-blowingly good. So it saved me work because I can go from that and I'll edit it significantly, but it still saved me the work. It came up with creative new questions that weren't just changing the order of the multiple choice questions. It was coming up with new multiple choice questions. It with partially reflective mirrors, blah, blah, blah. And you end up with cohesive, focused, single color, powerful light, as opposed to like a flashlight where it's an open beam of multiple colors. And what do we want for our projects? We want to get cohesive, powerful. We want cohesive, powerful teams. We want answers that are cohesive, and it can cause, it can do things like cut through metal and, carve sculptures and solve problems. So that back and forth idea is what we talk about in the book, that everything has to be a back and forth between the human and hopefully multiple humans. So it's multiple perspectives, so you don't have biases that we all have. And AI is contributing its opinion and its value. And we take that and go, good idea. How about this? And it's the back and forth that yields that beam that comes out that's focused and cohesive and powerful. So, that's the metaphor, but the book has examples, specific examples of how you might use this as a project manager, particularly, and I like to use the word project leader, particularly and ironically in the area of dealing with people. Writing a letter to a vendor to complain about a bad delivery. If you do that when you're mad, or even when you calm down a little bit, it might be full of some innuendo that you really didn't want to send. You could say, acting as an impartial listener, look at this letter I've written. Do you see any improvements? It comes back and will give you perhaps a more empathetic letter that might get you a better result. Same for a performance review. Same for a request to get a team member added to your team. Same for dealing with a disgruntled team member. These things that, where you say, humans are better at that. Yes, but they can still be helped by a collaboration with AI. Well, part of it, thank you, good question. I think part of it is expanding the mindset, identifying the things in a kind of a life cycle analysis, a life cycle assessment fashion. This is a lot of project managers don't even know or understand the concept of LCA, life cycle assessment, where you think about the product of your project in steady state, whether it's a service or a physical product. Using AI as an advisor, as James said, taking the attitude of a holistic and long-term view, what aspects of my projects project itself, can I change up front that will yield a better result? Not just at the opening ceremony, and not just when we turn this over. We have a new ergonomic mouse, and we're going to release this on such and such a date. But think about the materials in it, a disposal, whether it uses a rechargeable battery or a disposable battery. Look a year, 2 years, 5 years into the future. And this works in construction, by the way, too. I give my students the example, and I'm out of my league here talking to construction folks, but if you're paving a highway, you have the choice of buying a less expensive paving material or one that costs 3 times as much, but won't require maintenance as much, won't emit as much carbon in and of itself, will give better traction to cars and have fewer accidents. But if you're the project manager for that paving project, you're not motivated by that. You're motivated by being under budget. And so you'll pick the lower cost paving material. So to answer your question, Yoshi, AI could be asked as an advisor, and maybe even you can use this to go to your supervisor who wants you to be under a certain number and say, look, it is going to be less money for us to build this road if we use vendor A at 1/3 the cost of vendor B. Vendor B's product, although more expensive for purchase, is going to result in a much better picture 5-10 years from now. It's all a matter of how you're measured and motivated. And AI could give you the wherewithal to propose holistic, long-term view decisions that project managers typically, I'll use the vernacular, just ain't that good at. I come from telecom. You have, okay, everyone's using AI, and let's upload all our, let's say it's a biotech company, let's upload all our new molecules and have it do some analysis. Now you've lost IP, and maybe you have unethical things happening. So it's haphazard use of AI with high expectations because it's in the news. I mean, in the US anyway, shows like 60 Minutes and other, documentary shows have taken this on. And there's, like you said, preaching to the choir, people like us, we're kind of early adopters. We have a tech background. We'll have the propensity to use it. Others are going to just look at avatars and go, wow, that looks like a real person. And you can't blame them because what they're seeing may lead them to believe that this is magic. And if that leader, who's only a muggle, well, there's 4 professors, each with their own ego. So there was even disagreement of how we should organize it. Should we each write a chapter and so forth? But no, because we took the tactic that there were 4 main chapters. For example, one on prompt engineering. There's one chapter dedicated to prompt engineering. My chapter is more on the synergy between AI and people. We each read each other's chapter, each changed them so that there was kind of one style. The publisher, Pearson, helped us with that. I don't think there was much. It's a good question. I don't think there's much we disagreed on. There's a lot of pictures in the book. So a lot of it had to do with how do we show things. But as far as concept, we called ourselves Team Awesome, not because we were awesome, but because we worked together so well as a team.